Hello everyone. In this video, I have picked up a few common questions to avoid giving repetitive answers. I've also picked up a few nice comments and suggestions where I have been tempted to share my own thoughts. So let us get started. Now, the first thing is the confusion over my name and my channel's name. So when I get a comment with a greeting, dear Pashanti ji, so that becomes a little amusing for me because my name is not Pashanti. Pashanti is the name of my channel. So when I started this channel at that time, I was looking for an appropriate name and this name was available. So I claimed this name, and Pashanti in Sanskrit basically means a third eye. And if you want to have more information about this word, you might want to navigate to the wiki pages. And so let me repeat that Pashanti is the name of my channel. My name is Kailash. So when you're trying to address me, you can say Kailash, dear Kailash, sir, friend, or just K. Avoid using the word Pashanti ji. So thank you for that. Now let's move on and look at one of the comment and suggestion from one of the users. So what is he saying? He says, please check Fortuna in Navansh because it definitely gives a result, especially related to work. So this is a nice suggestion, and because Professor KSK has also made use of the Fortuna, and in lot many articles he has showed that how to use Fortuna. And but what is Fortuna? Fortuna is ascendant degree plus moon degree minus sun degree. So this is going to yield a point that can be mapped to KP star and subtable. So, for example, let's say in some horoscope, ascendant plus moon degree minus sun degree equals to Aries 16 degree. That in turn will map to Mars as the sign lord, Venus as the star lord, and Sun as the sublord in the KP star table. So that way the Fortuna becomes quite a sensitive point. But the thing is that can Fortuna be used to address questions related to work, such as, like when you talk about the work, then it could mean service, or it could mean business, or it could even mean both. So, and when somebody is in a job, then there are questions regarding transfer, promotion, demotion, change of job, and there are a host of other questions related to service. Similarly, when somebody is in a business, then they have so many questions regarding business, independent business, type of business, partnership, multiple businesses, and lot many other questions. So, so when we have just one sensitive point as a Fortuna, how do we go further? How do we go? How do we move forward and try to analyze these type of various questions in the light of that particular Fortuna? See, the Krishnamurti framework, KP's framework is very good because these days, in the modern time, you just can't say. I mean, when you're talking about service or a profession, then you have to get into all these questions: job transfer, promotion, demotion, and similarly in the business, so you have a lot of these questions that come up. So whenever you talk about the some experiment or going out of the box, and for example, this user has mentioned about the Fortuna in Navansh gives results, especially related to work, then one has to expand that what is meant by gives result, especially related to work. Will this Fortuna in Navansh be able to answer or address questions like job transfer or business related? If it is able to answer those questions, then this is something that this user should share with other users as well. So that's now let's move on to the next question, and this is a question, and it says that I would request you to make it clear my confusion that my moon is placed in the eighth house, which is the lord of the fourth, and but as per KP Cusp chart, my moon is placed in the seventh house. So during my moon dasha, Shall I get the result of the 8th house or the 7th house? Okay, so it's basically the question is that in the KP astrology, one should be looking at the cusp chart or one should be looking at the lagna chart. So yeah, in KP you have to look at the cusp chart. That's what KP is all about. You have to look at the cusp chart. So even if your moon is in the 8th house, like you have mentioned, is going to be in the 8th house, because you mentioned your moon is the lord of the 4th house. So Aries becomes your ascendant, and moon is in the 8th house, but it's going to be in the 7th house according to the KP cusp chart. So you have to look at the moon as being in the 7th house, or giving the result of the 7th house. And but see, your second part of this question, during my moon the Mahadasha, shall I get the result of the 8th house or the 7th house? Now this is not a this is a little confusing question, and seems like you have not gotten a good handle of KP, because in KP it is not the planet, it is the planet's star lord. That's the basic founding principle of Krishnamurti Paddhati. A planet will first give the result of its star lord. So you have to look at what is the star lord of moon, where in which degree the moon is, what is the moon's star lord. Now if Aries is your ascendant and moon is in the 8th house, like you have mentioned, so in the eighth house only three stars could appear: the Jupiter and the Saturn or Mercury. So depending on the degree of the moon could be in Jupiter or in Saturn or in the Mercury star. So moon, despite being in the 7th house in the cusp chart, is first going to give the result of Jupiter or Saturn or Mercury. So let's say, if it is in Saturn star, depending on its degrees. So moon, then how do you analyze it, the moon dasha or the effect of the moon? Moon being in the 7th and then giving the result of the 10th and 11th. Now it will first give the result of where the Saturn is, but just for the purpose of explaining, I'm trying to explain this in simple terms. Moon is in 7 in the cusp chart, but it is in Scorpio in some degree, indicating Saturn as the star lord, Saturn being the lord of the 10th and 11th. So moon is going to give the result of 10th and 11th, and it is in the 7th. So what does it usually indicate? It indicates the person might have an opportunity to get into partnership, because 7th house indicates the partner, 10th house indicates the business, and the 11th house indicates the permanent ties or the friendship or bonding. So this is how then you have to judge. Now let's move on to the next question. And now this is about some confusion in one of my videos, and so I appreciate that this user has pointed out a timestamp where one could make a jump. And but I would say what happens is that if I have to look into your question, then I have to listen to this whole video again, and so that's a little bit a tiring work. And but you have mentioned that uh, Mars has 5/8, which is not good for a career. However, he got promotion in Venus Mars dasha. Since I really don't recall what did I cover in this video, but briefly I would say, see, 5/8 not necessarily means that it is bad for career. 5/8 puts pressure in terms of money and in terms of the loss, sometimes of financial loss. And but for the and at the same time, when you are looking at the signification of the planet, a planet could be a planet or the dasha, antardasha could indicate 5, 8, 10, 11 at the same time. So at that time you have to look at multiple things happening at the same time, good thing happening at the same time, bad thing happening at the same time. And for the career, the bad houses are usually the 6, 8 and 12 from the 10th house, so which become third, fifth, 5 and ninth house. My own personal experience has been that if in a horoscope there are too many planets signifying too much of 5 and 9, that's not good for a career, whether it's a service or whether it's a business. Because that kind of a person will not have a fixity of purpose. If somebody is in service, they'll keep on changing or jumping from one service to another. And same for business. They will keep on changing and they will not have a fixity. Generally, they will not have a fixity. And so for from and the fifth and ninth house also indicates a change in the existing line of service or the business, and especially if the fifth and ninth house again are connected with the bad houses like 8, 12, and 7, 8, 12, and all these houses, then it could mean a setback in the career. And now let's move on to, now this question is again from the same user, and in this question he has mentioned that why Krishnamurti has made use of the Vimshottari dasha for formulating his theory. That's what I could make it out from this. And this user has also come up with some suggestion. So see, the why Krishnamurti was making use of the Navansha when he started practicing astrology, and in his lot of old articles you will see that he makes use of the Navansh. And but somewhere down the line, he did his research on the Vimshottari, and this is how then he came up with the Star Lord and dividing the Star Lord into 9 unequal parts based on the Vimshottari dasha calculation. That's what I have explained in this video. That this is the very basis of Krishnamurti's system of dividing the zodiac using the Vimshottari calculation. Now you have mentioned about that one slightly different approach, and that's nice. I mean, any experiment or any innovative thing, any out of the box thing is always nice to try. But one of the things that you might want to keep in mind is that whenever you experiment with something, with any new method or with any new finding or any new procedure, then you have to eventually look into how effective that is from the predictive astrology point of view. Let's say you come up with whatever, some new mathematics of dividing the zodiac. Now the thing is that uh, how you are going to address, or how that particular new theory is going to address a question, let's say related to marriage, because the marriage alone has so many different questions: early marriage, no marriage, multiple marriage, divorce, reunion, remarriage, intercaste, interrace, married life, and so many host of other questions. So you have to gather as many horoscopes, and then you have to apply your theory to each of these horoscopes, and then you have to figure it out whether that theory is working or not working. So it's a great deal of work. It's a lot of collaborative work, and so you might want to think into the on those lines. And again, you have mentioned that in J software, the Vimshottari Dasha has many options to calculate the year. Now, I would not be able to comment on this because I have not used J and so I really don't know what kind of calculation they use for calculating the year. But I could make it out that because there are 3 or 4 different methods of calculating the year, and on top of it the length of the year is also not uniform. It's somewhere 365, somewhere 360. So but like I mentioned, I have not used Jehora, so I have no clue how are they calculating it. Now let's move on to the next. This is a question. Okay, if sublord and star lord of planet Saturn both is showing 4, 9, 12, what is it indicating? Is something to worry about? Now in Krishnamurti Paddhati, the houses 5, 6, 8, 12, I forgot to mention 7 also. So 7 is also there. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, and these are the houses when they join hands together, especially on the star level or on the sub level. that is the time then one has to worry. These are the bad houses in KP astrology, the 5, 6, 7, 8, 12. And out of that, 6, 8, 12 are bad, then 8 and 12 are definitely bad. If you have access to KP's books, and if you look at some of the examples that he has mentioned, he has repeatedly pointed out that 8 and 12, when they join hands, that is the period then one has to sit up and be a little cautious, because that period is not good. 4, 9, 12, 4, 9, 12, what could 4, 9, 12 indicate? 4 and 9 usually indicates higher education. So if somebody is of that age, student age, or getting into the college, and if he's having this period, 4, 9 is good. 9, 12, it usually indicates going abroad or making a long journey. So those kind of a thing. So for 4, 9, 12 is not a combination that could be worrisome. But at the same time, unless you have the entire horoscope in front of you, you cannot really say with the confidence that 4, 9, 12 is not going to be bad, because there could be other signification of these planets that you have to look into. So now let's look into the next. This is a do a detailed video on Vipreet Raj Yoga by using example charts and outward. Now this is a very nice suggestion about the looking into the yoga. Actually, I would say into the Krishnamurti Paddhati. Krishnamurti has not mentioned too much about the yoga, and you will just find a few, 2 or 3 examples where he has picked up a few yogas and mentioned the significance according to the Krishnamurti's method. But this is something I have been lately, giving a lot of time looking into the yoga things from in the Krishnamurti Paddhati's framework. And but one of the questions that Krishnamurti has repeatedly asked in terms of yoga is that take this example for Cancer ascendant, the Mercury is already a bad planet, and so it could cause a Vipreet Raj Yoga. Now Krishnamurti's question has been that if Mercury for a Cancer horoscope is causing a Vipreet Raj Yoga, will all 17 years of Mercury Dasha period be the same? This is a very important question. If somebody is having a Raj Yoga, what exactly it means? Is he going to have a Raj Yoga for entire 17 years, or they are going to be ups and downs? So having a yoga is not a guarantee that the whole entire period of that planet is going to be a good, but at the same time it could also be. So yoga has to be looked into that light. And I have been doing some research, and I'm going to create a video where I'm going to share my finding, and I'm excited about the exploring the possibility of finding yogas in KP framework. And one of the things, how you could look in the formation of a yoga in the KP framework is like, with this example. Ninth Lord is deposited, this is just an example. Ninth Lord is deposited in star of 10th Lord and in sub of the first Lord. And so make a note of this and 10th Lord in star of 9th and sub of first. This is just an example. This is not a yoga that has been recommended by Krishnamurti. This is not something that I have done any research on. But I am saying that if you have to look into the possibility of yoga into Krishnamurti's framework, then this is something you can proceed on these lines, and not just confining yourself to 2, 6, 10, 11 or 10, 11. You have to think a little out of the box. And so this is something on these lines, you can maybe, you can experiment and see if something fascinating comes your way. Now let's move on to the next one, and this says, I registered this app but not show my ID. Okay, this is about the KP star one. Okay, now I do get questions, once in a while about the KP star one, this problem or that problem. The first thing that I want to mention is that I have nothing to do with KP star one. I don't know them. I don't know their team, and I have been using KP star one because that's only the free software that is available, and that is what I recommend to other people. But I don't like KP software. Sorry, the KP star one, and it is free. Calculations are nice, and it gives you pretty much what you need to do as a KP astrologer while assessing a horoscope. But in terms of their user interface and all that, this is a nightmare. This software is just a nightmare. It is so bad. And recently, they came up with something like a pre-installer or something last week, and this is again a nightmare. They have no clue. They have no idea about how to, write a nice user interface, and so it's a torture. And then I realized that all their this is in preparation for they are, they are going to abandon the free version, and I could make it out that this have mentioned that the free version is available until all new paid version. So they are basically going to go all paid version, and they are going to abandon the free version. So once again, I have nothing to do with KP Star One. Go to their website, go to their contact us page. In their software also, they have an email ID. Send an email directly to them. I am not a system engineer. I have no clue why their Windows DLL and those kind of errors pops up. You have to contact them directly. And finally, the last question, and this is the best question, especially in this video. And it says that I want to know the exam. Rahu doesn't signify marriage, but in Saturn sub it has signified. Should we consider the marriage even the dasha lord is not signifying? This line is important. Should we consider the marriage when even the dasha lord is not signifying the marriage? My answer is yes. If the dasha lord is neutral, if the dasha lord is not signifying 2711, but it is neutral, it is not heavily denying, but it is neutral, then you can go ahead and uh, and uh, and predict that marriage can happen during that particular mahadasha. Now, in this context, in the light of this question, I want to elaborate a little bit more. See, in the KP natal and the KP horary, they have a slightly different approach in terms of the cuspal sublord. Normally, we say that if the cuspal sublord doesn't signify a particular matter, that matter will never happen in a person's life. So logically, that's a very nice way to work on any specific query. But that works out very beautifully in the KP horary. But in the KP natal chart, you will get stuck up. You will find horoscope where, let's say, the example of marriage, and you will have horoscope where the seventh sublord is indicating marriage very strongly, but the person remains, unmarried throughout the life, or it is denying marriage, and the person gets not only married, sometimes they get married twice. Okay, so the whole cuspal sublot thing in the KP natal, KP birth chart. Let me repeat. I'm talking here about only the KP birth chart astrology, KP natal astrology. I'm not talking about the horary, where the cuspal sublot work with a different kind of a charm and exactness. In the KP natal birth chart astrology, the cuspal sublot uh, are not 100%, you can rely on the signification of the cuspal sublot. So what happens is that when you see this thing and you say that okay, this person should not have gotten married because the cuspal sublot is not indicating it, and but you then realize that the person is already married. So what do? You get into stuff like birth time rectification and other stuff, like you go to the sub level, or you go to the cuspal interlinks, or you start checking or rechecking the enhanche. In fact, in one of the videos I saw this where the this student gave a horoscope to one of the KP astrologer. This is, I'm talking about some KP classes. I saw this video on YouTube, and the instructor or the teacher, and he said, okay, this horoscope doesn't indicate any marriage. Why? Because of the 27, no 2711. Okay, that kind of a thing. And then this student uh, said, okay, this chart belongs to her, and that she is already married. And I vaguely recall she already had kids, and this is then that she was born in like in late 90s or something. So I assume that person who were born in late 90s, their time of birth is pretty precise. So what happens is that this leaves the instructor very embarrassed, and immediately what they do, they will first jump on and start changing the birth time. Okay, and in this case, same thing happened. The instructor changed the birth time by 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I don't know how many minutes. And this student kept on protesting that her birth time was very accurate. So you get into all these kind of embarrassing, situation, because you you have put everything in a box, and especially in the natal and the birth chart, and you often tend to get into this kind of a situation. And like I mentioned, then you start rectifying the birth chart, or you start going to the sub level, or you start venturing into the cuspal interlinks or anansha and all that. And but sometimes you have to also think that maybe we might want to reconsider how the cuspal sublots work in the KP natal versus the KP horary. Maybe they work in the KP horary, but in the KP natal chart, we need a different approach. And so this is one area where I'm going to create a video, and where I will share some of my thoughts. So that's all in this presentation. Thank you for watching, and hope you enjoyed it.